We're finally here! We've went through 12 elemental entries and literally waited months for this. Almost to the end of 2024. At long last, we've reached the conclusion of this enormous elemental series. Thank you so much for sticking around throughout this endeavor. And what better topic on reaching the end of the year than with the utmost powerful kinetic technique, Chronokinesis. The ability to manipulate the ultimate force that shapes our lives in the entire universe. Time. There are many reasons in how and why controlling time is such a mysterious, ominous skill. Be it going to the past or to the future, to speeding up and slowing down its endless flow, or to the point on changing history. Being a chronokinetic, let alone a time master, is just unsurmountable, and how appropriate before the birth of the next year. But enough idle talk. Let's finish this, damn it!
Let the new era begin.
Starting the list in the series finale is the infamous Time Witch of the Final Fantasy juggernaut, Ultimecia. Now let it be known here, I wasn't into the PlayStation trilogy, and RPGs and I hardly get along, unlike 90% of gamers on planet Earth. So I never cared about 8 all that much. However, it wasn't until in Dissidia I came to know her. As the first female villain in the cluster mug, Ultimecia was so-so. As a creepy sorceress, she's able to control and manipulate the minds and subconsciousnesses of others, even giving them fake illusions, even as far as different eras of time. It's like the Mandela effect times 10 with her. In fact, her main goal and her abilities rely on time compression, basically reducing the past, present, and the future into one timeline and absorbing all time and existence to attain godhood. A little monotonous as Solaris' idea, or perhaps as Titan Shank's songs. But she really does fall short since she never uses any chronokinesis in battle, such as haste, slow, or stop. Won't it make more sense to use them since she happens to be a so-called time sorceress? Despite that, the plot's just so damned contrived. She just possesses other sorceresses such as Alone and Adia in order to take control of the seed and her world throughout different eras, including using many puppets such as Cypher, or even erasing people's memories as they summon their own eidolons. But it was only in Dissidia that I began to know her more. She still maintains her manipulations, convincing Tifa that Kane's a traitor, or tricking Squall disguising herself as Cosmos and convince him to be the lone wolf, or just being the cold femme fatale recruiting and strategizing with the Chaos Warriors. The only chronokinetic techniques she has been mostly time crush and time compression, but they're usually EX moves and take time to charge, and only connect if an opponent's paralyzed. Ultimecia takes the lowest rank as, like many, I wasn't into 8 nor her concept. But I'm pretty sure Kronika from Mortal Kombat was greatly inspired by her, along with others such as Solaris or Daemon. But I'm pretty sure that the Ultimate Time Witch was the preamble of them all, and for this list. As I stated before, RPGs and I hardly ever get along, so the Epoch time machine has barely made the cut for this list. In a way, it reminds me of the DeLorean from Back to the Future, as it is a stylish vessel that is able to go to numerous points in time. Based on the dystopian future ruined by Lavos, it can travel to different eras from prehistory to the antiquity, which was Chrono's home, to the Middle Ages, the present, the apocalypse, the future, and even the end of time. Much like another contender from a different RPG, it enables the player to collect various equipment for Chrono and his team and gain more experience before taking on the Universal Eraser. Believe me, you do not want to foolishly take on Lavos and get traumatized by the horrific bad ending. The strangest thing is, it was unable to take flight until a certain point in the game, in which Dalton captures it, but now gains extra jets to propel it in mid-air, and can now access any point in time anytime, except in prehistory. Quarter Guy actually picked this as his favorite method of transport, but due to my limited experience with RPGs, the Epoch, aka the Wings of Time, barely landed on this repertoire. It is indeed interesting going through few time periods at your own will, but since it requires a lot of effort, and due to inexperience, it only takes the cake at number 9. For once, I'm including an entire area since it specializes in controlling time. The Hyperbolic Time Chamber from Dragon Ball Z is certainly the first. It's one of the most interesting places introduced in anime history. This place is located at the rear of the lookout, and it's often regarded as an intense training ground for several Z fighters. Contrary to Ultimecia, it too relies on time compression, but is far better. Ironic, since DBZ was made even before the uninspiring 8's existence. The chamber induces 10 times Earth's gravity, and its charged atmosphere always allows its resonance to stay for a year, and even supplies enough food and sundries to do so, usually till the limit of 2 occupants. The most intriguing thing is how fast time flows there compared to the outside world. And the 2 hourglasses akin to the middle chamber counts it down, while the center clock shows how much time has passed from the outside. For instance, training in there for 1 year is equivalent to a whole day outside, or a single minute in the chamber is equivalent to approximately 6 hours, 5 minutes, and 15 seconds. Sweet Lord! Although they mustn't wander too far off within the endless void surrounding the chamber, as they'd be lost for an eternity despite the atmosphere getting denser if they dared to work harder. But thankfully they never really happened. While it has been technically introduced in the original Dragon Ball series, I'd only encountered it in several games dedicated to the Z sagas. Specifically with Budokai 1 through 3, The Legacy of Goku 2, Tiketsu, and Kakarot. The main reason why it's low is because, well, despite these outrageous conditions, the games never did very much with it. Sure, the battleground is there, but there hasn't been any unique environmental conditions. And it kind of defeats its purpose since every and any combatant is able to cross and train there instead of several special ones like in the anime. It's mostly used like every other arena, and mostly as a plot device when highlighting the Celebi sagas. It would be extraordinary if it was expanded more, or if the other versions were explored. But nevertheless, due to its intense nature, and since it's the only environmental representative compressing time, the chamber is certainly never a thing of the past. Oh man! This is probably my earliest example of a chronokinetic. The Riddler alien Tomater from the Lost Vikings. We don't necessarily encounter him till much later in the two games, but Tomater's been responsible for capturing the Vikings in the dead of night and into his massive vessel. His purpose is to abduct many living species for his extensive zoo as playthings, or as a collector's item, kind of like Safari Joe or Captain Bragg in his circus train. He holds the trio against their will, and they escape via time portal, transmitting them from era to era. From the prehistoric era to ancient Egypt, to the industrial, to the wacky world, and finally back to his ship where he becomes a full-on trap master that can even make Emperor Mateus blush his placid face to a tomato. Get it? Anyway, Tomater, like Ultimecia, doesn't necessarily possess chronokinesis directly in battle, but rather creates time portals throughout all eras to help expand his collection, hence the low rating. But holy hot damn! Accessing and meeting the monster is never easy. Whether through his constant time warps and his numerous traps. I don't know why he wouldn't use chronokinesis more directly, since he actually has the impossible ingenuity to do so. And it's revealed in the sequel that the mighty Crotonian Emperor happens to be a human child in disguise. Tommy seems to be so well gifted, possessing knowledge, interstellar technology, and flexibility that isn't often present in many adults. And is just doing all this for the sake of playtime instead of doing monotonous work. I think Tomater is like one of those autistics like Rory McKenna from Predator, collecting things, having a great deal of ingenuity into sci-fi, and probably hating school and chores, as well as a brilliant mind, and also being a trifle toxic. Kind of makes me wonder if autism is whether or not an opportunity for advancement.
Possibly a next step in our evolution.
I wonder.
It's too bad we only get to see him in 2 games, and by the end of them, I wish we'd see the human kid grow and mature, and perhaps rule his pseudo-empire again more efficiently. But since he has a great deal in history, smarts, and time-ripping, he certainly earns the spot here. The goddess Gaia from the Evo series happens to also be a chronokinetic, but unlike several, is used in a peaceful, indirect way. The daughter of the sun god and representative of Earth doesn't involve herself in battle, but rather guides the player as the hero progresses through many eons and gifts it with evolution. Unlike in later games such as Pokemon that require one form at a time, she grants the player with multiple evolutions the more it levels up and adapts. This was established before Pokemon and Digimon, where they abused the heck out of evolution, as this is done the natural way where the player gains experience and more Evo points after living through each eon and decimating its own corresponding boss. A few evolutions are event-driven, while many others are at the player's disposal. Enix was just ingenious creating variety of species, before it was bastardized by merging with squandering Square. While we transit ourselves, she also allows to skip to different time periods suitable for every upgrade, and she also functions as a chess master of sorts, having a vast knowledge of our planet through one eon to another like Tomater does. And as a giver of life, she also revives the hero whenever it dies to progress again. Our mission is to assist the goddess of life against omnipotent nature that consumes evolutionary crystals not created by her, in order to become the perfect life form and rule Eden with her. As corruption overruns the Earth, Gaia assists you on that trial and error mission to help restore balance throughout her own realm. Kind of reminds me of Raiden or another contender down the line. And she's infinitely better than the asinine elder goddess Cetrion! Before I go any further, I need to address something here. I was never interested in the Xbox ever since its conception back in 2001. Only the GameCube and PlayStation 2 caught my interest, and none of its games ever fazed me. I only associate Microsoft with computer technology and even the various applications it entails, such as Word, Publisher, Excel, or PowerPoint. Even now I use a Windows 11 laptop, and I've been using them in the past from 10 to Windows 2000, even as far back as a 94 DOS. However, there were only two measly games that made me curious, aside from ToeJam and Earl, transcending from Sega to Microsoft. And even this interesting contender, Blinx the Time Sweeper. When brainstorming for Chrono Contenders, Blinx just never left my mind. That feisty feline just takes time manipulation literally. As an actual time sweeper working for the Time Factory, he can rewind, fast forward, stop, pause, and play time with his own TS-1000. It was surely fascinating from the moment I first played it, and there hasn't been any chrono manipulator quite like it. Of course, in order to prevent the gizmo to be broken, every function has to be limited, like everything in the real world. I've yet to encounter the second game, but I heard he doesn't have a leading role. Blinx may just as well be as underappreciated and sometimes as cocky as either Bubsy, Awesome Possum, or Bonk. And that can be a problem, thus being in the top 5. He happens to be a hard worker than a slacker, and has phenomenal abilities in both of his games. However, his pompous attitude and constant stubbornness can be his detriment. Regardless, restoring the balance of time and cleaning out B1Q64 by utilizing literal and direct chronokinesis shall be every gamer's dream. Just bending time's infinite flow and also being a sassy cat just makes it all the more special. If only Blinx controlling time with a blink of an eye shall be recognized and praised more by the biased mainstream. Everyone knows of the legendary and iconic role with Link being the hero of time. This version of the hero has always been the most impactful, both positively and negatively, ever since I began puberty. I'd say he's the most popular incarnation of all, even surpassing the hero of the wilds. Ever since the mega hit Ocarina of Time debuted in '98, and Zelda's second sequel tie-in with Majora's Mask in the new millennium, Link possesses abilities that can transcend time. From the mystic Ocarina of Time to the mighty Master Sword stationed in the temple, Sheik prophesies the coming of the hero. Whether as a child or adult, he can switch between 7 years, wielding many types of items and weapons on his quest to restoring Hyrule and decimating Ganondorf. And it didn't stop there when he was able to retrieve the stolen ocarina from the evil Skull Kid, and went through many time loops in accomplishing to restore Termina, collecting masks, awaken the 4 giants to prevent the moon from crashing within 72 hours, and obliterate Majora. Hell, in both lands, Link's capable on fast-forwarding several hours with the ocarina by playing the Sun Song, or even slowing down and speeding up time's flow in Termina at will. Even functioning as a skeletal mentor to the hero of Twilight. It's almost as if that both Furore as the goddess representing courage, and has the essence of the hero made a hybrid, along with Nehru, who seems to resemble time, even being the goddess of time herself. Although the hero of time was the most inspirational to me as I really got into him since Ocarina of Time and the OG Smash Bros., he seems to be in the gray area thanks to Majora's Mask spitting me out. It's no wonder with his appeal, his various chrono abilities, and his status was inspiration for another contender. The Guardians of the Galaxy, the Telltale series, was my escape from the asinine MCU, specifically from the infuriating Volume 2. I was at first hesitant on giving the game a try soon after, especially since it was for the PS4, which was the console that also debuted MKX. Nevertheless, I was still so glad I stumbled upon this gem and discovered some interesting things, such as Hala the Accuser and the Eternity Forge. This was once a Kree artifact in which the Guardians found after decimating Thanos and taking him into custody. Peter was the first to hold and observe its functions, sending him hallucinations back to his early childhood, whether his mom Meredith was alive or has died, and then taken in by Yondu. When the team faced Hala, Peter himself nearly perished, until the Forge brought him through time and restored his vitality, as if rewinding from his injuries. The group was awestruck on what it can do, and little by little began to strain, while Hala obsessively hunts for it to revive her lost son and our undead Kree army. To be fair, Peter also has a little chronokinesis with his time scanner, and observes past incidences, but the Forge can do so much more. Shaped like an hourglass and forged with omnipotence from across the universe, it's no wonder an object that controls time by the user. From having Peter, Rocket, and even Gamora reviewing their dark moments in history, while also interacting in conjunction with history, to healing from grave injury, to rewinding time and bringing total chaos across the universe. Whoever possesses that relic can control the fabric of time and space. Kronika and Shang weren't the only titans drawn to madness by wielding such an incredible force, as did Hala absorbing its destructive properties. There is a catch, as the forge works if a victim dies, as it can only transfer life energy rather than conjure it. As the Celestial One, Peter follows Mantis bringing it to the temple and is torn on whether or not to destroy it, which the latter is often the better choice anyway. Either way, the forge is decimated, as is Hala after absorbing, then running out of regained life energy, and is obliterated by the forge itself, or by her own zombified son. In either case, the Eternity Forge was a very interesting concept that not even the lousy multiverse dared to tread. And it's actually for the best, since that one game hasn't been bastardized and gave Telltale a fighting chance before its bankruptcy and revival. The Forge was the focal point, and only object controls life and time. And I can't recommend this game enough. The adorable time-traveling Pokemon traversed to second place. This cute Chloral and Chronokinetic debuted from my favorite generation and is stated that it has come from the future and crosses over time. It's said it only appears in peaceful times, though, restoring forests and life, much as what Gaia does. Celebi is known as a rare sighting amongst humans and Pokemon alike, much like Mew, and often resides deeply in forests, leaving an egg behind from the future. It too travels through different eras, much as Ultimecia, Gaia, and the Hero of Time. As a time treader and manipulator, it was the Pokemon that debuted Future Sight, which is meant to be a powerful special move unleashing grave amount of telekinetic energy to its enemies, or Mirror Room mimicking its opponent's moves and effects, or Ancient Power increasing its stats. The best part is, though, when it's able to transport a trainer through time and rewrite certain events. Wow, its stats are at an even keel of 100 all across the board. You never get that with any Pokemon. Even with their schizophrenic stats in each gimmicky regional evolution, it also accidentally transported Sam from the past to escape a bounty hunter, only to be a victim from a greater threat that even corrupts its gracious spirit into a being on hell-bent destruction. I didn't grow up nor got into Dialga. I was enthralled with the adorable Forest Fairy, and I think it shares many traits with the Hero of Time, as aforementioned. From living in forests and being immersed in nature, to being mostly encased in green, and with the concept on traversing through time. And it's no question to be a love child between Mother Nature and Father Time, being a nurturer, peace lover, and a time trekker. And it too shares many traits with the previous Gaia as well as the last contender. Just like with Link, I think Celebi was roughly inspired by him, as the time traveler Pokemon wielding grass and having the color representing nature, not to mention that green is my favorite color. I think Game Freak was intrigued by the Hero of Time, since Gen 2 came out in between Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. And I strongly desire it to be like its mascot or sidekick of sorts, just as Navi was. Both Ocarina of Time and Pokemon were pivotal ever since I was a teenager back in 2000, so it only makes sense. So too with the final contender, it's just one of those cute, excellent, and admirable Chronokinetics you just can't live without. Alright, we counted down 9 of the unsung wielders of time. But before we officially count down to number 1 and the last elemental, it's time to give light to the honorable and dishonorable mentions.
The future you offer is not worth living. It will not come to pass.
It was difficult to find my all-time favorite contender for a Chronokinetic, but Lord Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat has never left my mind. Ever since his ascension in MK11, he has been an irresistible instant favorite, and having Matthew Yang King just makes Liu Kang the more merrier. Ever since Raiden gave up his prowess by shedding it onto Revenant Liu Kang, while simultaneously incapacitated past self with the bloody sea of the Netherrealm, 3 distinctive combatants merged into one badass. The God of Thunder and Fire, along with the regenerating Jinsei, had him overcome incredible adversities. Even when he needed to retrieve the crown to make his power absolute, without making reality crumble. The Keeper of Time status was established in 11, but these time shenanigans were first established in the accursed MK9. With Chronica manipulating Radiant's psyche and distorting history, along with giving those 3 dreaded words,
"He must win,"
just to let her son have the upper hand and sever Raiden's partnership with the Chosen One. But thanks to his redemption, Fire God Liu Kang has been living in my head rent-free. Although many people say that time travel and MK can't mix since it's cheap and broken, it can be a reasonable skill if used effectively. to have a real purpose and make it work, unlike many media tend to do. So what can he do in his epic godhood or titan status? Well, as an immortal, he was capable and resisting temporal alterations by Chronica, unlike with Lao and Katana. He too has tried once stopping the hourglass from shifting in his last fight with Chronica, even though it was worthless. Though he was able to observe future events through the hourglass and fast forward to the events of the Timequake for Shang, Fusion, and Nightwolf to retrieve Chronica's crown, and watch the failures unfold before confronting the treacherous Snake, and soon defeat him in combat, wield temporal energy to erase him from existence, and wear the crown to recruit the great Kung Lao. I'll be damned! He truly is the chosen one! He doesn't necessarily use chronokinesis in combat, but rather some plot device, and the props often go to Chronica and Garrus. Although, just like Din with Hyrule, he was able to craft the realms and his new era as he saw fit, with the beginning of time and everything, then giving his chrono manipulation to Garrus and risks of caving into insanity like how the Titaness was. I wonder if Chronica as the first Keeper of Time was responsible for creating these legalities.
Scorpion wins. Fatality.
If only that was canon. His role as the former Keeper of Time and full-time defender of Earthrealm in Dominic's failed experiment was a massive downgrade. Wilbur Bros has made the promising savior as a simp, only specializing in pyrokinesis and no more of his awesome might, along with a setback role and basic outfit. He had a tiny bit of time management, only when he was wielding the hourglass and making the plot have a schizophrenic multi-universe, which resulted him to be set back to demigod status, even against Havoc and other potential threats. Although, to be fair, while I usually condemn Dominic's failed experiment, wishing for it to crash and burn, he has been a great muse in roleplay with other two friends of mine. He sounds like he's in the gray area, but it's only because that Wilker Bros and NRS are incapable and how to handle a Keeper of Time wielding pyro and electrokinesis. It can be done without the laziness. Just as I did in my chronology. If they just would have went with the perfect ending from MK11, they wouldn't have to apply his tragic ladder ending. All he's gotta do is divide his power amongst his loved ones, live his happy ending, and pass the torch like he did with the great Kung Lao.
You mean like kind of in little tiny pieces?
Precisely, Grease Pit. To have Liu Kang be the defender of Earthrealm and Keeper of Time, while also settling down so he won't cave into madness and despair. To use his chrono, pyro, and electromancy only in dire emergencies, whenever the realms or the fabric of time is under threat. To monitor and sometimes explore history utilizing the hourglass, and educate other individuals from all realms. And above all, to learn from history so mistakes and destruction will never be repeated, unlike in recent times. He functioned as a chess master indirectly, letting history unfold itself, and even gave Kung Lao the encouragement to keep living, and have his destiny come full circle with Liu's mortal counterpart, as well as having Lao and Raiden go through a temporal flux to spy on Shijinko and find key elements on decimating Onaga. Learning from experience from his pure and evil counterparts gave him the knowledge needed to improve in just one timeline. Even sending my OC Aiko 16 years into the past, from Liu's era as a Revenant, Send Baraka back 500 years from Kano's dystopian future to live a peaceful life, like he did with Katana Khan, and actually give MK closure on finishing Blaze without Khan's ascension. See, Lord Liu Kang can use his chronokinesis for the greater good without any downgrades in his mortality nor his abilities. That only Tobias and well-devoted fans can make him as a time master while never having the brevity on being some insane ultimate life form. And with those astronomical skills, perhaps it'd be time for him to be the new mascot and have his chance in an Injustice or Multiverses game, or even Smash Bros. Just like with all hierarchs, no matter what, is how you use these privileges, and Lord Liu Kang is certainly capable of wielding and even standing the tides of time if given dedication and merit. He's truly known as the Chosen One. He's omnipotent and also humanitarian, and if handled well, he can achieve anything imaginable. I'm the Ecron Rider, and Lord Liu Kang will forever be known as my chosen as a hero and excellent elemental when the right circumstances are met. Checkmate to the Chosen One for time immemorial. He shall always be the savior for all of time.